The National Association of Insurance Commissioners, NAIC, developed 12 standard provisions for health insurance policies. States require insurers to include these provisions in their policies. Entire contract provision. The entire contract provision states that the policy, riders, and endorsements form the contract between the insurance company and the policy owner. Agreements beyond the contract are not part of it. Only an executive officer of the company can change the policy. Time limit on certain defenses provision. The time limit on certain defenses provision is like the incontestability clause in life insurance. It limits the time an insurer can void a policy or deny a claim for material misrepresentations on the application. Most states limit the contestability period to 2 years. Once a policy is in effect for 2 years, an insurer cannot void it or deny a claim because of misrepresentation on the application. Some states limit the period to 3 years. Grace period provision. Insurers cancel a policy if the premium is not paid. The grace period provision gives the policy owner some time after the due date to pay the premium. The period depends on how often the premium is due. 7 days for weekly premiums. 10 days for monthly premiums. 31 days for all other payment modes. The mode of premium payment can be weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, or some other frequency. Some states require a 31-day grace period in every case. This is true with products designed for older consumers, such as long-term care insurance and Medicare supplement insurance. The insurer pays valid claims that arise during the grace period. It can deduct the premium due from the claim payment. Reinstatement provision. If the premium is not paid by the end of the grace period, the policy lapses. The reinstatement provision lets a policy owner reinstate a lapsed policy within a certain period. The normal reinstatement period is 3 years from the date of lapse. To reinstate a policy, the policy owner applies for it, pays past due premiums with interest, and gives proof of insurability. The insurer has up to 45 days to reject the application for reinstatement. If the insurer does nothing, reinstatement is automatic. The insurer lets the policy owner know when the policy is in effect again. Key point. A health insurance policy covers accidents immediately upon reinstatement. It can delay coverage for claims arising from sickness for up to 10 days after reinstatement. This protects the insurer from adverse selection. Physical examination and autopsy provision. The physical examination and autopsy provision gives the insurer the right to have the insured take a physical exam when a claim has been filed. The insurer pays for this exam. An exam is common with disability income claims. If the claim arises from the insured's death, the insurer has the right to order an autopsy to determine the cause of death. The insurer pays for the autopsy. Legal actions provision. The legal actions provision sets the period during which the insured can take legal action against the insurer to dispute its decision on a claim. The provision prevents the insured from taking legal action against the insurer for at least 60 days after giving proof of loss to the insurer. The insured cannot take legal action against the insurer more than 3 years after proof of loss. Change of beneficiary provision. The owner of a policy with a death benefit must designate a beneficiary. The change of beneficiary provision gives the policy owner the right to change the beneficiary. However, the owner can exercise this right only if the designation is revocable. If the designation is irrevocable, the policy owner can change the beneficiary only if the beneficiary agrees to the change. Payment of claims provision. The payment of claims provision states how claims are paid. If the insured dies, the insurer pays the beneficiary. If the insured did not specify a beneficiary, the insurer pays the insured's estate. Notice of claim provision. The notice of claim provision requires the insured to notify the insurer within 20 days after a loss. Sometimes the insured cannot notify the insurer within 20 days. So, the provision allows the insured to give this notice as soon as reasonably possible. The notice of claim tells the insurer that the insured intends to file a claim. The insurer sends the insured the necessary claim forms. Claim forms provision. Once the insurer gets a notice of claim from the insured, The claim forms provision requires the insurer to give claim forms to the insured within 15 days. Otherwise, the insured can instead submit a written statement describing how the loss occurred, the nature of the loss, and the medical expenses. Proof of loss provision. Under the proof of loss provision, the insured must give the insurer written proof of loss within 90 days. The insurer can extend this period under certain circumstances. In the case of disability insurance, the insured may need to give ongoing proof of loss to continue getting benefits. Time of payment of claims provision. The time of payment of claims provision compels the insurer to pay claims immediately after receiving proof of loss. The insurer will pay benefits for disability claims at least monthly. States differ in how they define an immediate payment after proof of loss. For some, it is payment within 60 days. For others, it is payment within 45 days. An insurer that does not pay a valid claim within a reasonable time must also pay interest on the amount due. The following table summarizes the 12 required provisions and the purpose of each. Please pause the audio and review the table. For your review. 12 mandatory provisions in health insurance policies protect the policy owner. The policy remains in effect during the grace period. The insurer will cancel the policy if the premium has not been paid by the end of the grace period. An insured can usually reinstate a health insurance policy within 3 years from the date of lapse. If the insurer does nothing for 45 days after it gets an application to reinstate a health insurance policy, the policy is automatically reinstated. A reinstated policy will cover accidents immediately. It may delay coverage of illness for up to 10 days after reinstatement. An insured must notify the insurer of a loss within 20 days, or as soon as reasonably possible. After an insurer gets notice of a loss, it must within 15 days give the insured the forms needed to file the claim. Please pause the audio and watch the video. You can restart the audio playback at any time.
In spite of their many differences, all health insurance policies share many similar provisions. In the early 1950s, the NAIC, or National Association of Insurance Commissioners, sought to make all the different types of health insurance provisions that were out there at the time more uniform by setting forth its Uniform Accident and Sickness Policy Provisions Law. That law identified a number of provisions which we now consider to be standard provisions, and they can be categorized into two different types. Those that are considered mandatory or required of every health insurance policy, and those that are optional. That is, they may or may not be included in a policy at the insurer's option. This lesson talks about the 12 mandatory or 12 required policy provisions that must be part of every health insurance policy. I'm not going to go through that list of 12 required provisions, but I want you to help you understand this. Let me just kind of set the table for explaining why there are required provisions and why there are optional provisions. When you look at the different types of required provisions, you'll notice a common theme in them is that they exist primarily for the protection of the policy owner. Because they are there for the protection of the policy owner, they're required. When you take a look at the optional provisions, you will see that for the most part, they exist for the protection of the insurance company. Therefore, since it's the insurance company that's being protected, it is the insurance company's option whether to include those provisions or not. So understand that distinction. The required provisions primarily exist for the protection of the policy owner. Optional provisions generally exist for the protection of the insurance company, will help you differentiate the two in preparing for your licensing exam.
All right, everybody get that memorized? All right, so how many standard provisions are there? We need to do this live, by the way. So if you want these tests and these quizzes to be live, you need to let me know in the comments. This class may be over by the time anybody answers, but if I get any comments, then we can do these things live in the future. All right, which organization recommends that policies follow certain provisions? I want to say it's either this one or this one. I can't remember. Insurance and financial. I'm just going to say insurance commissioners for now. All right, insured files a notice of claim, but the insurer fails to provide necessarily the right forms to file the claim. What should the insurer do to file the claim? The insurer fails to provide the necessary forms. You could take legal action. Notify the state's insurance department. I'll click on that one. I don't know. We'll see what the answer is in a minute. Which standard provision allows a lapsed policy to take effect? The grace period, maybe? All right. So there's 12. Okay. 12 standard provisions. And I got this one right, NAIC. Okay, which makes sense. We're not doing anything with finances. That's why I didn't pick that one. All right, what did I get right? 50? 25. I only got one right. Okay. So you need to submit a written statement describing the loss, but it doesn't say who to write the statement to. I guess to whoever to the person you got the insurance with. All right, this one here is reinstatement provision. What standard provision allows a lapsed policy to take effect again? It is the reinstatement. The grace period allows the person more time beyond the due date to pay the premium. All right, so that's it on that one, and I thank you all for staying till the end.